You have probably had a stretch of winning trades and thought to yourself, finally, I figured this out. Maybe you even started sizing up, feeling confident, telling yourself the strategy was bulletproof, and then one day the market moved against you and suddenly everything you built evaporated. If that has ever happened to you, you need to hear this story, because what happened to one trading community late last year is the most terrifying version of that experience I have ever seen. Community of about 1,000 members all piled into the same options trade every single day. At least one member had risked his entire life savings on this particular strategy. The reports say it was working out fine, it was doing great, everybody was happy. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, the active members of that community experienced more than $50 million in losses over a 4 or 5 day period. And the guy who had risked his entire life savings, that guy actually had to launch a GoFundMe page soliciting donations to help him cover his basic living expenses. A strategy that was printing money one week turned someone into a charity case the next. How the hell does this happen? How does a strategy go from doing really great one day to putting people on the street the next? And more importantly, why is your brain wired to walk you straight into the same kind of trap? Trading psychology stick. By the end of this video, you are going to understand the hidden mechanism that destroyed those traders, and you are going to have a practical framework to make sure it never happens to you. But here is the thing most videos will not tell you. The math is only half the story. The real killer and the real fix is what is happening inside your head every time you see green or red on that screen. Now, I need to be upfront about something. After working with traders for years and watching this exact pattern play out over and over again, I can tell you that what happened to this community is not unique. I have seen variations of this same disaster destroy accounts, marriages, and careers. The details change, but the underlying mechanism is always the same. I am not privy to the precise trades those people were making each day. I have a general idea of what they were doing, enough to understand how the whole thing blew up, and we are going to run you through a rough simulation of what we understand happened. The purpose is not to issue a factual report on those specific losses. The purpose is to show you the math behind why the basic principle their trading strategy was premised on had an enormous risk embedded in it, so that if you ever come across ideas like this in the future, you will understand just how catastrophic they can become and stay very, very far away from them. So let me walk you through how the strategy works, because when you see it for the first time, you are going to think it looks genius, and that is exactly the problem. Sometime near the closing bell each day, the traders in this community would pull up an options chain on the S&P 500 index, specifically one expiring the next day. In the options world, we call this a one-day to expiration chain, or 1DTE. Then they would construct what options traders call an Iron Condor. Now, if you have never heard of an Iron Condor, here is all you need to know. You are making a bet that the market will stay within a specific range by tomorrow's close. You do not care if it goes up. You do not care if it goes down. You only care that it does not go too far in either direction. And here is the part that makes it feel like free money. When you execute this trade, you actually collect cash up front. The money hits your account immediately. You sell the Iron Condor, you collect your premium, you go home, you sleep, and if the market behaves the next day, you wake up and keep the money. Every single day. Over and over. It was working. It was consistent. The account balances were growing, and that consistency, that feeling of reliable income flowing in day after day, is the most seductive and the most dangerous part of this entire story. Have you ever had a strategy that worked so well you stopped questioning it? That is exactly what happened here, and that is what makes this so terrifying. Let me give you the numbers so you can feel what these traders were feeling. The community collectively sold about 9,000 of these Iron Condors in a single day. Between all 1,000 members, that is very plausible. They set their trades so the S&P 500 had about 65 points of breathing room on both sides. As long as the index did not move more than 65 points in a single day, every option expired worthless, and they kept all the cash. The net premium they collected that day across the community was approximately $1,620,000. Their brokers required about $2,880,000 in capital to hold those positions because that was the worst-case scenario loss. But here is the seductive part. On most days, the S&P does not move 65 points. On most days, everything expires worthless and you just pocket the cash. $1.62 million. In a day, for doing essentially nothing. Can you feel the pull of that? Can you feel how easy it would be to convince yourself this is the answer? The premiums keep coming day after day after day. Green, 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 green. It seems so safe. And that, right there, is where the trap is set. Because here's what happened the very next day. The S&P staged a massive rally, closing up about 60 points. Now stop and think about that for a second. 60 points. Their breathing room was 65 points. The market came within 5 points of their boundary and blew straight through one side. 60 points is a big move, but it is not a once-in-a-decade event. The market makes moves like that multiple times a year. It is not even particularly unusual. But for this community, it was catastrophic. When you net it all down, starting from the $1,620,000 they collected, the community was left with a total loss of $2,880,000. Let that sink in. They collected $1.62 million. They lost $2.88 million in one day on one move, a move that the market makes routinely. That is not a black swan. That is a Tuesday. And this was not a one-day problem. This catastrophe reportedly played out over 4 or 5 consecutive days of similar moves. Multiply what we just showed you across several sessions, and you start to understand how the losses ballooned past $50 million. $50 million gone from a strategy that was working great the week before. If this is already making you rethink some of your own strategies, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button right now, because this is the kind of deep dive content that can genuinely save your account, and we put it out regularly. Alright, let us keep going, because what I am about to tell you next is the part that actually matters. Most trading videos would stop right here. They would tell you the strategy was flawed, remind you to manage your risk, maybe draw some lines on a chart, and call it a day, and they would be correct. The strategy was flawed. The asymmetry was the killer. The maximum amount they could win on any single day was always capped at the premium they collected, but the maximum they could lose was nearly double that. Every single good day was just building false confidence while the loss was lurking beneath the surface the entire time. They were doing what old school traders call picking up pennies in front of a steamroller. Small, consistent wins that feel amazing until the one day the steamroller catches you. The strategy did not fail. The strategy was always designed to fail eventually. The math guaranteed it. The only question was when. But here is what most videos would miss entirely. And this is where I need you to really lean in, because this is the part that is going to change the way you trade. The real question is not how did they lose the money. The real question is, why did 1,000 intelligent people pile into this in the first place? Why did someone, a real human being with a family, risk his entire life savings on a single strategy? Why did an entire community of 1,000 members all convince themselves this was safe? The answer is not greed. It is not stupidity. It is not even poor risk management, although all of those played a role. The answer is something much deeper, something much more uncomfortable, and something that is almost certainly affecting your trading right now, whether you realize it or not. The answer is that the skills that made these people successful in every other area of their lives were the exact skills that destroyed them in trading. Think about that for a second. The thing you are most proud of, the work ethic, the drive, the refusal to quit, that is probably the thing that is killing your trading. Most people have grown up in a world where hard work, that can push, that can make things happen, and the more effort they put in, the greater the likelihood that they are going to win. Think about your own life, whether you built your career in sales, in corporate, in athletics, in entrepreneurship, whatever it was, there was a formula. You worked harder than the next person, you pushed through rejection, you refused to quit, and you won. That formula is real. It works in almost every domain of human life. It works in school, it works in business, it works in relationships, it works everywhere except trading. When these people got into trading, the exact opposite happened. They had no control over winning and losing, and it flipped them out. It takes people, particularly when there is real capital sitting there at risk, and all of a sudden it is, oh my God, this is real. That success formula that has been developed over decades in other businesses and other professions, that formula blows up in trading. Your competence in real life is your liability in the market. And if that sentence does not make you deeply uncomfortable, you have not been paying close enough attention. Because it means that the harder you try, the more disciplined you are, the more you push, the worse it gets. The rules you mastered in every other game are the rules that will bankrupt you in this one. Now, ready for the part that is really going to mess with you? Because what I just told you about your career skills working against you, that is actually the shallow version. The real problem goes back way further than your career. It goes back about 200,000 years. And this is the part where everything clicks into place. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt physical pain when you took a loss? Not sadness, not frustration, actual pain. A tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach, a sensation like something is being taken from you. If you have felt that, congratulations, you are not crazy. You are just running on hardware that was built for a completely different world. Your caveman ancestors had one job: survive today, control the outcome of this moment, kill the thing before it kills you, find the food before you starve. Everything about their existence was built around short-term control of outcome. And here is the critical part. The probability for any individual caveman on any given day was that he was going to die. The odds were against survival. So what did he do? He created a myth, a story, a belief system that allowed him to go through anything with the conviction that he was going to win. He could not afford to think in probabilities. If he sat down and calculated the actual odds of making it through the winter, he would have given up and died. So he did not calculate. He fought. He refused to accept the possibility of loss. And that refusal, that irrational, mathematically unjustified refusal to accept losing, is the reason your species survived for millions of years. That is in your DNA. That is coded into every neuron firing in your brain right now. Now here is where I need you to connect the dots back to that Iron Condor community. Imagine you are sitting at your desk. You have been collecting premium every day for weeks, green day after green day. Your brain is telling you this works. You are safe. You are in control. And then you see the S&P spike 40 points in 20 minutes. Your palms are sweating. Your chest tightens. Your mind starts racing. That feeling, that visceral physical response, that is not you being bad at trading. That is a 200,000-year-old alarm system going off. Your nervous system is reading that red number on the screen exactly the same way your ancestor read a predator in the tall grass. The problem is that what works for surviving on a savanna does not work for managing a portfolio. You are running million-year-old survival software on a modern trading terminal, and the software is not broken. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is just designed for the wrong environment. And this is where it gets even more dangerous, because your brain has a feature that sounds like it should help you, but actually makes everything worse. Your brain does not learn from success. That establishes and maintains pattern. It learns from failure. Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, he famously said, "I failed my way to success." And that is one of the most important sentences a trader can hear. Because think about what was happening inside the brains of that Iron Condor community. Every single time the strategy worked, every time the premium hit the account, every green day in a row, the brain registered it as proof the strategy was safe. The neural pathways got stronger. The pattern got reinforced. The confidence grew. But none of that was learning. That was just your brain going, yes, this is working. Keep doing this. This is how we survive. The brain was not analyzing the risk. It was not calculating the tail probability. It was not asking what happens on the day the market moves 60 points. It was just pattern matching. Green day, good. Green day, good. Green day, good. And with every green day, those traders became more certain, more committed, and more exposed. The winning streak was not evidence the strategy worked. It was loading the gun, and they could not see it because their own brain, the very mechanism that was supposed to protect them, was the thing blinding them to the danger. So let me ask you, how many green days in a row have you had on your current strategy? And when was the last time you seriously questioned whether those green days were teaching you anything real or just reinforcing a pattern that has not been tested yet? Now I need you to really sit with this next part, because this is the piece that changes everything. When a trade goes against you, when you are watching that red number grow on your screen, when the position is reaching closer and closer to your stop loss, what is happening inside you is not what you think is happening. You think you are making a rational assessment of risk. You think you are weighing your options, considering whether to hold or cut the loss. But you are not. What is actually happening is something far more primal. Your caveman ancestors had no clue what money was. If you gave them a stack of $100 bills, they would not know what to do with it. But they knew what survival felt like. They knew what it meant to have power, to have resources, to have the ability to control their environment, and over thousands of years, money became a symbolic representation of the power to survive. So when that trade goes against you, when that number turns red and keeps getting redder, your nervous system does not read that as a financial event. It reads it as a survival threat. It feels like the old saber-toothed tiger bearing down on you with its teeth, and you are going to have to fight for your life. That is revenge trading. What you just had was ancient survival instincts taking over the brain, creating the mind that is engaging uncertainty. And at that particular moment, you can intellectually know everything you are supposed to do. You can know you should cut the loss. You can know you should walk away. You can know the textbook answer. But the circuitry that has been triggered is not interested in textbooks. It is interested in survival. And a brain in survival mode cannot manage probability. It cannot think long term. It cannot make rational assessments. It can only fight or flee. That is why you double down on losing trades. That is why you move your stop loss. That is why you size up after a string of losses trying to make it back. You are not being greedy. You are not being stupid. You are being human. Your ancient survival programming has hijacked your executive function, and you are now trading from the amygdala, not the prefrontal cortex. Every trader who blew up that community was experiencing this exact same thing. They were not cold, calculating risk takers who got unlucky. They were human beings whose survival circuits were telling them the strategy was safe because it had always been safe before, and their brains literally could not process the possibility that this time was different. But we need to go one layer deeper still, because there is something even more insidious going on beneath the survival instincts. And this is the part I really need you to hear, because it is the difference between the traders who eventually break through and the traders who quit, blow up, or worse, spend years stuck in the same cycle wondering what is wrong with them. Here it is. Most traders, and I mean the vast majority, what they have done is they have glued winning and not losing with their sense of mattering who they are in the world. You have confused your net worth with your self-worth. When you win a trade, you do not just feel like you made money, you feel like somebody. You feel competent, worthy, like you matter. When you lose a trade, you do not just feel like you lost money, you feel like nobody. You feel inadequate, ashamed, like you do not deserve to be at the table. If you are aligning your sense of being in the world, your value as a human being, with your performances, you are going to always have trouble in trading. That is not motivational poster advice. That is the diagnosis of why the vast majority of traders fail. They are not failing at trading. They are failing at separating who they are from what their account says. And this is why people cannot cut losses. Think about it. If cutting a loss was purely a financial decision, everybody would do it. The math is simple. You set your stop, the price hits your stop, you get out. A 5-year-old could understand the logic. But cutting a loss is not a financial decision for most traders. It is an identity decision. Cutting a loss feels like admitting you do not matter. And who wants to feel that? Nobody. So instead of cutting the loss, you hold, you hope, you pray, you move the stop, you add to the position, you do anything at all to avoid confronting that feeling. Because the feeling of being wrong is not just uncomfortable, it is existentially threatening. Sound familiar? Be honest with yourself right now. How many times have you held a losing trade not because you had a logical reason to, but because getting out meant admitting you were wrong and you could not stomach that feeling? And this problem shows up everywhere, not just in obvious ways like revenge trading. It shows up in ways you would never expect. I love this story because it is so perfectly revealing. The other day I am driving and I stop behind a guy at the traffic light and I am looking at his vanity plates and it says, "Got to be number one." Now, I have no doubt that if you are in a sales organization and you have that warrior instinct, that mind has served you incredibly well. You are going out. You are highly competitive. You are getting revved up. You are going harder and harder and harder. You are going to break through the wall. You are going to break through the rejection. You are going to make that sale. That relentless drive to be first, to be the best, to dominate, that is what made you successful in business. But that kind of mind blows up in trading. The guy who needs to be number one, who needs to win, who cannot tolerate being wrong even for a moment, that guy would be the first one to blow up an account. And he would never understand why, because in every other area of his life, that exact trait is the thing that makes him great. You see how deep this goes? It is not just that you have bad habits. It is not just that you need more discipline. It is that the entire psychological infrastructure that got you to where you are in life, the competitiveness, the drive, the refusal to accept losing, the identity built around winning, all of it becomes your enemy the moment you sit down at a trading terminal. The game changed the day you started trading, and nobody told you the rules were different. So if winning does not mean what you thought it meant, then what does it actually mean? And I need you to let go of everything you have ever believed about winning and losing for the next 60 seconds, because the redefinition I am about to give you is going to feel wrong. It is going to feel like I am asking you to be mediocre. I am not. I am asking you to be accurate. Winning in trading only means that you landed on the right side of probability relative to you. That is it. And losing only means that you landed on the wrong side of probability relative to you. That is all it means. It says nothing about your intelligence. It says nothing about your preparation. It says nothing about your worth as a human being. It says nothing about whether you will win tomorrow or lose tomorrow. It says nothing about your future. It is just probability expressing itself through your particular position on that particular day. Once you truly internalize that, once it stops being something you intellectually agree with and starts being something you feel in your bones, everything changes. Because suddenly a loss is not an attack on your identity. It is just data. It is just the market landing on one side of a probability distribution. You can take that data, examine it calmly, learn from it if there is something to learn, and move on. But until you reach that point, until you genuinely stop equating your trade outcomes with your value as a person, you are going to keep making the same mistakes. You are going to keep revenge trading. You are going to keep holding losers too long. You are going to keep sizing up after losses. And you are going to keep wondering why you cannot get consistent, even though you know exactly what you are supposed to do. That gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it, that gap is not a discipline problem. It is an identity problem. And no amount of discipline can solve an identity crisis. This is the dirty secret of trading education. Everyone teaches you what to do. Cut your losses, follow your plan, manage your risk, and all of that is correct. But nobody teaches you how to be the kind of person who can actually do those things when the moment arrives and your nervous system is screaming at you that cutting this loss means you are a failure. The knowledge is easy. Being the person who can act on the knowledge when it matters, that is the real work. Here is a practical tool I want you to start using immediately because we have spent a lot of time on the problem and I know some of you are thinking, okay, I get it. My brain is ancient. My identity is glued to my account. Great. Now what do I actually do when I am sitting there staring at a losing trade? Fair enough. After every single loss, before you do anything else, before you take another trade, before you even think about the next setup, ask yourself 4 questions. Question 1, was this a method mistake? Did I deviate from my methodology? Did I take a trade I was not supposed to take? Did I ignore a rule in my system? If yes, that is correctable. You know what went wrong, and you can fix it. Write it down and move on. Question 2. Was this a psychological mistake? Did you size up because you were excited? Did you get scared and exit too early? Did you get angry and revenge trade? If yes, that is trainable. You can learn to recognize those emotional states before they take over, and you can develop the skills to regulate them. Question 3. Was this just probability? Did you follow your method, maintain your composure, execute the trade the way you were supposed to, and it just did not work out? And if that is the case, then you ask the critical force question, would I take this trade again? If the answer is yes, if you look at the setup and the execution and you honestly say, yes, that was a good trade, I would take that trade every single time, then the loss is psychologically meaningless. It carries no information about your ability, your judgment, or your worth. It was just probability landing on the wrong side. Correct response is to move on, wait for the next valid setup, and take it with the same conviction. I have watched traders transform their results simply by committing to this 4-question process after every loss. It does not sound revolutionary. It sounds almost too simple. But what it does is it interrupts the shame spiral. It stops you from going straight from loss to revenge trade to bigger loss to despair. It forces you to diagnose before you react. And over time, it builds a completely different relationship with losing. You stop experiencing losses as emotional catastrophes and start experiencing them as diagnostic information. That shift is the beginning of consistent profitability. Now I want to tell you a story, and this might be the most important story you hear all year. I saved it for this part of the video deliberately because I needed you to understand everything we have discussed so far for this story to land the way it needs to. This is about a trader who had been on a bad run, not just a few losing days, a real, sustained, gut-wrenching stretch of terrible decisions. The kind of stretch where every choice you make seems to be the wrong one, where you start to question whether you have any idea what you are doing, where the shame starts to eat at you in the middle of the night. And the worst part was, he had been hiding it. He had been hiding the losses from his wife, not because she would have been angry about the money, although maybe she would have, but because in the deepest part of himself, he believed his value as a husband was tied to his performance as a trader. Think about what we just discussed. He had glued his sense of mattering to his profit and loss statement. If he was winning, he was a good husband. He was a provider. He was worthy of her love. If he was losing, he was a failure. He did not deserve her, so he hid it. He carried the weight of those losses alone, and every day the shame got heavier and the lies got harder and the distance between them grew wider. Until one day he could not carry it anymore. He sat down with his wife and told her everything. He told her about the really stupid set of mistakes he had made. He told her how much they had lost. He told her about the fear and the shame and the months of pretending everything was fine. And you know what happened? They held each other and they cried together. She did not leave. She did not scream. She did not tell him he was worthless. They held each other and they cried together. And what he discovered in that moment, what broke through every wall he had built, was something so simple it almost sounds obvious when you say it out loud, but it is the hardest thing in the world to actually feel. No matter what, win or lose, he mattered. He was going to be okay. He was going to be loved. That realization, that simple, devastating, beautiful realization that his worth as a human being had nothing to do with his trading account, changed everything. After that, he was able to disconnect the conversation about mattering, about winning as a way of producing value as a human being, from his performances as a trader. They became two completely separate things. His identity went in one box, his trading went in another. And then this giant wave of success came his way, not because he found a better strategy, not because he learned a new indicator, not because the market suddenly got easier, but because for the first time in his trading career, he was not trading to prove he mattered. He was just trading, executing a plan, managing probabilities, taking losses when they came, and moving on without it touching the core of who he was. The breakthrough was not a new strategy. The breakthrough was permission to lose. And that, right there, is the skill that separates the traders who make it from the traders who do not. It is not chart reading. It is not finding the perfect indicator. It is not timing the market or picking the right options chain or collecting the right amount of premium. Your job is to produce a mind that is independent of your performances. I need you to sit with that sentence for a moment because it might be the most important thing you hear in your entire trading career. Your job is to produce a mind that is independent of your performances. A loss is only a loss. It does not affect the human you are. That is the core skill nobody teaches. Not a new indicator, not a better entry trigger, not a fancier risk management formula. The ability to take a loss and flee nothing about your identity, nothing about your worth, nothing about whether you deserve to be loved or respected or taken seriously. The only thing you feel after a loss, if you have built this mind correctly, is curiosity. What happened? Was it method, psychology, or probability? Would I take it again? And then you move on, clean, uncontaminated, ready for the next trade with the same clarity and conviction you had before the loss. That is what a probability management mind looks like. And I know that sounds almost impossibly detached, like I am asking you to become a robot. I am not. I am asking you to become more fully human. Because the version of you that is enslaved to your profit and loss statement, the version of you that cannot eat dinner after a losing day, that cannot sleep, that snaps at your kids, that feels like a fraud, that version of you is not more human for feeling all that pain. That version of you is being controlled by circuitry that is 200,000 years old, and you deserve better than that. Now here's the good news, and I want to be honest with you about both the good news and the hard news. The good news is that you can build this mind. We just did not get the genetics lottery that produced a brain that could automatically play in the worlds of uncertainty. But it can be developed. Look at a world-class surfer. Most of the surfing photographs you see show someone who looks like they are in total control, riding down a massive wave, everything looking beautiful. But what you're actually looking at is someone who has trained their mind to engage uncertainty. That surfer does not know if they are going to get the great ride they want. They do not know if the wave is going to break the wrong way, if they are going to wipe out, if they are going to get held under. There is genuine danger and genuine uncertainty in every single moment, but they have built a mind that can perform under those conditions, not because it is natural. It is not natural. Some people are born with it. Most of us are going to have to learn it, but we are our own worst enemies because we do not want to take a look at that. We want the problem to go away some other way. We want a new strategy to fix our psychology. We want a better indicator to solve our emotional regulation. We want something, anything, external to change so that we do not have to do the internal work. I have watched this play out hundreds of times. A trader will come to me and say, I think I need a better strategy. And I will ask them, tell me about your last 5 losses. And what comes out is not a story about bad entries or wrong indicators. What comes out is a story about fear, about shame, about a trader who could not pull the trigger on a stop loss because pulling the trigger meant admitting they were wrong and they could not handle what that said about them. The strategy was fine. The human being operating the strategy was in crisis, but it does not work like that. A new strategy is not going to solve it. Ignoring the problem is not going to solve it. No, the solution is going through it. The solution is turning toward the discomfort, examining the beliefs that drive your performances, and deliberately rebuilding your relationship with winning and losing from the ground up. That is the hard news. It takes work. It takes what I would call an emotional lift. You are going to have to look at things about yourself that you have spent your whole life avoiding. The shame that triggers when you lose, the fear of not being good enough, the terror of being seen as a failure. Those things live in you whether you acknowledge them or not, and they are running your trading whether you realize it or not. You can either face them and work through them, or you can keep blowing up accounts and wondering what is wrong with your strategy. I have seen traders who spent years searching for the perfect system, jumping from strategy to strategy, indicator to indicator, thinking the next one would be the one that finally made them consistent. And every single time the new system would work for a while and then blow up. Not because the systems were bad, because the mind operating the systems had never been rebuilt. The system was never the problem, the operator was the problem. And until the operator changes, no system on earth will save you. So let me bring this full circle. 1,000 traders, a community that found what looked like the perfect strategy, $50 million in losses, a GoFundMe page for basic living expenses. The Iron Condor did not destroy them. Their refusal to accept what they could not control did. The strategy was a mirror for their need to never lose. It gave them daily confirmation that effort equals outcome, that the world is controllable, that winning is just a matter of finding the right system. And the market does not care about your need. The market is just probability expressing itself day after day, and it will take everything from you if you cannot separate who you are from what your account says. You can be captain of your own destiny, but it is going to take a little emotional lift, and you are going to have to take a look at the beliefs that drive your performances, and you are going to have to rebuild them to become the human being that you can be. You either evolve your mind or you feed the market. You either learn to take a loss without it touching your identity, or you will be the next GoFundMe page. There is no third door where you find the magic strategy that wins every time. That door does not exist. Every strategy loses. Every edge has drawdowns. The only question is whether you have built the psychological infrastructure to survive those tests with your capital and your sanity intact. Remember what we said earlier. Your brain does not learn from success. It learns from failure. So the failures are not the enemy. The failures are the curriculum. The enemy is your refusal to experience them without making them mean something about who you are. That is not a trading tip. That is the entire game. Now I want to hear from you. In the comments below, tell me this. When was the last time you took a loss and felt it in your chest, not just in your account? When was the last time a red number on a screen made you feel like less of a person? Be honest, because I guarantee you are not alone. And the first step to building the mind we talked about today is admitting where you are right now. Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if this video hit you differently than most trading content, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because somewhere right now there is a trader staring at the screen fighting a saber-toothed tiger that has been dead for 10,000 years, and they do not even know it. Maybe you can be the one who wakes them up. I will see you in the next one.